Okay, perfect. Thank you everyone once again for tuning in to our session, Soaring Through the Skies, Studying Abroad, the Black Experience, presented by the Center for Black Cultures, Resources, and Research and the Study Abroad Center. So to begin, we're going to start off with our study abroad introductions. First, I am Irene Morales. I am a Study Abroad Center peer advisor. I am not a Black student. I am a Latina student, but I definitely wanted to help open up this space because it's super important for all minority populations to be encouraged in regards to studying abroad. And I'll just be here helping facilitate and just really kicking it off for you all. But I will have John Dark Gomez, our Study Abroad Center Director, briefly introduce herself, but know that we'll be hearing more from her in just a bit as well. John Dark.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. I want to first start by acknowledging the work that went into creating this event. I want to really recognize Irene for coordinating with other campuses, UC campuses, and with our colleagues at UCI to really put together this presentation and this event for our students. It's really a great resource that we're providing. I also would like to recognize the study abroad staff that have contributed to the production of this event. I cannot start without, let me just pull my note if you would allow me. I cannot start without recognizing the work that the Center for Black Culture and Resources and Research does. As a Black woman, you're providing that area for any Black student to be able to find the resources that they need to be the person that they can be out away from home. So really would like to recognize the work that you're doing on campus as an African woman and as a Black woman as well. So thank you for your contribution. We are talking today about study abroad for Black students and UCI student studying abroad, American students study abroad. My contribution to this event today comes from a perspective of a Black African woman from a majority Muslim-dominated country in West Africa, who is right now in the United States, who is also a product of study abroad. So what you'll be hearing for the rest of the hour really will be more focused on US students studying abroad, but I just wanted to infuse a little bit of my own personal study abroad story to give maybe a bigger picture of what it means to be a Black person and study abroad. I come from a family of 7, a polygamous family, 4 sisters and 3 Black brothers. My sisters, all of them dropped out of school after primary school. I am the only Black of my family who has been far in education, who has had, gone to the university, have a master's degree. I am from a predominantly Muslim country where the religion is mainly about a woman being the support of the family, but mainly listening to what the husband does. It's very important to acknowledge the importance of religion on a Muslim country. So all of that has shaped who I am. And I had the privilege to study abroad against all odds. Before even studying abroad, I had the privilege to go to school and to have a degree. It did not come easy. I was able to go to school because I had the resources, I had the support, I had people that really pushed me, encouraged me to look beyond my circumstances and take the opportunities that were presented to me to be who I am supposed to be. So those kind of resources, that support, that encouragement. That's what the Study Abroad Center thrives to do. That's what our colleagues also on campus, they thrive to do, to provide to Black students that maybe you think you are not able to go abroad. So what we are doing today is show you part of the resources that are available on campus for you to know that it's possible to study abroad. You just take the opportunity and take a step forward to becoming who you are supposed to be. So I really want to appreciate the work of staff and appreciate the time of all of you that put aside everything that you could have been doing at this time to come and learn about studying abroad for Black students. Thank you so much, Irene, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, John Dark. Thank you for starting us off so beautifully. With that, we'll go ahead and let Niobe from the CBCRR introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Niobe Duke. I am the program coordinator for the Center for Black Cultures on campus. I am also an alum of BCI, so yeah, I've been here a while. So I'm just glad that Irene, reached out to us to actually, put this program together for our students and everything. I'm excited.
Thank you so much, Niobe. With that, we also did want to recognize Ashley from the UC Santa Cruz Study Abroad Center because she definitely provided us with such a strong foundation for this session. So thank you so much, Ashley. We appreciate you. Your efforts have really helped us for today. And then John Dark, if you wanted to start off with your other opening remarks and just let me know when to proceed forward to let our panel introduce themselves. John Dark, you may be muted.
Thank you so much again for the opportunity. I wanted to start off by saying studying abroad is an opportunity for every student, regardless of your major or your minor. Every student can study abroad if they plan ahead of time, because it's an experience of a lifetime, because it shaped who you are as a person. It also shaped your future and your career. When you start up by going abroad, you might not know what your experience is going to be. You will have expectations, right? But in a few minutes, we'll be learning some of the reasons why we think students should study abroad. But I can only share my story. Jean d'Arc's story is a story of somebody who acted on the opportunities that were presented to me to have an international experience that made me stand outside of the box and compete from others in the field. So it takes dedication, it takes patience, it takes also knowing that you can do it, because if others have done it, you should be able also to study abroad. We'll be looking at numbers in a few minutes, and we see that Black are really minority in studying abroad, that we can do more. And a lot of the challenges that we're facing are constrained to us moving forward with the plans that we have in our life, including studying abroad. So studying abroad really takes the understanding of what the impact that experience is going to have on you, forgetting the challenges of today, but looking into the future, what that experience is going to allow you to do and take a step of faith. It's like applying for a job, applying for college. You take a step of faith. You believe that you can do it when you go to school. You believe that if they hire you for this job, you will be able to do it. Studying abroad, I see it that way as well. You believe that you can study abroad because others have studied abroad. And if they can do it, you could do it. If they can do it, you could do it. to just close, I want to share this story. When I was back home in West Africa, I was told that I had the opportunity to go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and or go to the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities. And my choice was based on which state was colder, or which one is warmer to go to. Well, later I learned that both of them, they were really cold. None of them, there is none that is better than the other. But what I want to say is, they told me that if I want to know how cold it was in Minnesota, was to lock myself in a freezer for 5 minutes. And I have an idea of how cold it is in Minnesota versus going to Milwaukee. And I took that as a challenge. It did not deter me from going to Minnesota. As a matter of fact, it made me want to go to Minnesota. So I took that opportunity, left my country at a time when travel was almost impossible after 9/11, and I came to the United States. I am here today after over 20 years and still talking about study abroad, passionate about study abroad because it has changed my life. If I didn't take that challenge that time, if I was just looking at what 9/11 had done to the United States, if I was looking at what the world, the news was showing about the United States, I would never have come to the United States. I would have still be home, so I wouldn't be here talking about you. My message is a message of encouragement for you to step out of your comfort zone, seize the opportunity. Here at UCI, as students, you can do it. Seize the opportunity, look for resources, come to the center, and we will be more than delighted to help you choose the program of a lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, John Dark. And with that being said, we'll now let our wonderful panel introduce themselves, going from left to right. So Amber, if you can start us off.
All right, thanks, Irene. Hi, I'm Amber. I just want to start it off by saying that I am biracial, mixed Black and white. I'm a first generation college student. I just graduated from UCI this past spring, and I had a major in international studies and a minor in management. So I studied abroad at Yonsei University in South Korea for a year. I was originally only going to go for 6 months, but I fell in love with it and I stayed for an extra 6 months. So, yep, that's me.
It's my turn. Where you find this picture? How's it going, everybody? Bryant Parker. I graduated in 2018, along with Niobe there. I also studied abroad in Australia, Melbourne University, #1 university in Australia at the time. Did not know that, but I was like, oh, snap. Graduated with a degree in urban studies and a minor in AFM.
Is it my turn or?
Yes.
All right, cool. My name is Matthew Ryan. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I'm also an alumni from UC Irvine. I'm actually a community college transfer to UC Irvine. So I only got to spend, I think, maybe like a year and a half there. I came to Irvine, I think, the first quarter. And then right after the first quarter, I went on study abroad to Scotland. And then I came back, did my last year, and I enjoyed it. But while I was abroad, I actually really enjoyed what I was doing. And it kind of encouraged me to actually pursue my master's. So right now, I actually just finished my master's. Like, I'm in England right now. I should be coming back home like maybe next month. So I did my undergrad in psychology and social behavior, and then I did my master's in international business. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Great, thank you so much. We're so excited to hear more specifics about your experiences as we proceed. But in order for everyone to fully understand the importance of studying abroad, specifically for the Black community, we're gonna let John Dark go over some data. And if there's anything specifically you want to take away from today's discussion, feel free to drop it in the chat for us to know. But we are really here to have a conversation, a dialogue, and ask our panelists about their personal experiences. So while y'all think of some things you may want to specifically take away from today, we'll start with the introduction, the data, and then we're going to go over the benefits, considerations and challenges, country specifics, and then the study abroad logistics very briefly so everyone can know how feasible and attainable it really is, and then a Q&A. So John Dark, if you could go ahead and review what you think is the most important statistics.
According to the Forbes national study, we found out that 11% of people that were surveyed in 2019 about, American travel, that 11% of them never traveled outside of the state they were born. And that's quite interesting when I know that the United States is a country coming from overseas that people like to travel, people like to go places. But if you look at this data, 11% of the number of people that were surveyed never traveled outside of the state they were born. It quite struck me as contradictory to what I am used to, what I have seen. So half of those that were surveyed said that, over 54% said that they visited 10 states or fewer. That this reinforces, again, the fact that while the perception is that American people travel a lot, in reality, travel is really limited within the state, within individual states. Over 10% said that they never flown in an airplane. America as a power institution, economically developed leading institution in the world, you have less than 10% of the people that were surveyed said that they never traveled. It's quite striking for me as a data. It says a totally different picture. It depicts a totally different picture from what I was imagining coming to the US as a student. Some 40% never left the United States and half never owned a passport. We have a lot of work to do in the field of international education to get people to actually travel, understand the importance of traveling, and mostly interacting with people from different backgrounds. So I found this information really very encouraging for those of us that are in the field of education abroad to even do more so that we get our students and faculty to embrace international education. So when you look at Open Doors report in 2006 and 2007, we looked at the number of students who study abroad by ethnicity. And the takeaway was that only 3% of undergrad students study abroad. So very few students actually study abroad during their time when they are in college. This indicates that we still have a lot of work to do, given the importance of studying abroad. So just a small percentage, which is 6.1% of that population going abroad is Black or African American. A lot that we need to do. So where students are studying abroad, when you look at the distribution based on the country, it's also telling the preference of our student population. Where do they want to go? You see that Europe is the primary destination of students going abroad. Sub-Saharan Africa, 4%. When people study abroad, when students study abroad, they're looking at going to Europe because of several reasons. Familiarity, ease of travel, safety, security, a lot of perception of just that. Consider going to Sub-Saharan Africa, not even talking about the Middle East and North Africa that are still part of the African continent, even though sometimes they don't consider themselves part of Africa. So you have the concentration of study abroad population in Europe, Latin America, and in Asia. So the rest of the world is pretty much underrepresented when you look at study abroad destination. So a lot of education is needed if you need to diversify our study abroad population and also the study abroad destination. That's a lot of work that we need to do. At UCI, we wanted to share our study abroad participation now that we've looked at overall US students going abroad by ethnicity. We also looked at our UCI overall student population, enrollment population, undergraduate, and we also looked at the students that have studied abroad from UCI. You will see that the study abroad participation by ethnicity is proportioned with enrollment by ethnicity at UCI. The majority of the students who go abroad here are Asian American. So while Asian American are considered minority on other campuses, they are not minority at UCI. So the notion and definition of minority, again, is very important when we talk about diversifying our study abroad population. So we see here that African American, also we are lagging behind, African American and Black, we're lagging behind to catch up with Asian American and Latinx that makes the most of the population that study abroad. So we can say that we're doing well because, well, majority of students coming to UCI are Asian American, Latinx, and then you have white Caucasian. But you can also say it doesn't matter. We want to look at the overall student population, but we want to send more and more students abroad. We don't want to be proportion to actual enrollment. Our goal is to make study abroad possible for every UCI student because it's a life-changing experience that add to what they're studying in the classroom. So when you talk about internationalization, you're not looking at just a proportionate number of students that are enrolling to have that proportionate number of students going abroad. No, you actually want education abroad to be a part and parcel of every UCI student. And that's what we want, every Black and African American student to be a part of those that actually go, to catch up with Asian American, to catch up with Latinx, and so that we can say that we also are a major force that contribute to making change in the world, because study abroad does impact the personality of the student, and it helps them to be the change agent that they need to be in this global market. These are just a few data that we wanted to share to showcase the fact that while study abroad is important at UCI, encouraged at UCI, while we have predominantly Asian American, Latinx student enrolled in our different department, we have a lot of work to do to send students abroad so that we can say tomorrow that UCI is one of those institutions that can brag about sending each and every student abroad before they graduate. Thank you for your time. And I will take any question, I believe, at the end.
Thank you, John Dark. I believe I was muted for a second. So with that, we will go ahead and ask our panelists the first question: why did you choose to study abroad and why your host country specifically? And you all can answer in any order.
Okay, I'll go. So I chose to study abroad in general for a couple of reasons. My first sincere thoughts about study abroad started my junior year of high school. My Spanish teacher, who I really looked up to, just came over and was like talking to my group one day. And she talked about the amazing time she had in Spain when she was in college and how she just recommended that everyone go, especially for a year if you can. Going for any amount of time is great and I recommend it. But if you do go for that year, you're able to get over that initial learning curve and then you get to kind of just enjoy the rest of the time. So that really stuck in my mind ever since high school. And I've always loved the idea of traveling, but I am from like a lower income family. So I wasn't sure how feasible that would be for me, which as Jean d'Arc touched on earlier is a misconception. And I'm sure Irene will touch on that more later. But I was very nervous about the concept of being by myself in a foreign country with a language barrier. But I knew I really wanted to do it, especially what my Spanish teacher had said was just in my head. I was like, I have to do this. So fast forward to my second year of college, I switched my major to international studies. And a requirement for that major is to study abroad or to have a foreign internship of some type. So I use that as a little bit more of a push in the direction to make myself study abroad. And I chose Korea specifically because it lined up with a lot of my goals. I am a dancer. I used to be on a dance team at UCI. I love learning languages. And my junior year of high school, I had started teaching myself Korean because I liked starting at zero with a new alphabet. And I love fashion and makeup. You know, they're very fashion and makeup forward in Korea. And since my major required me to, I was just like, this lines up perfectly with my goals. And it was also just a place I wanted to go to in general. So that really worked out. And that's why I chose Korea.
I guess I'll go second. The reason why I decided to do study abroad was actually very odd. I don't want to get into a long story about it, but basically I was in a relationship with somebody that was basically a foreigner, and Niobe's met her, but yeah, I was in a relationship with a foreigner, and for us, I guess she kept like trying to encourage me to study abroad, and at first it was so, you know, foreign to me, the idea to actually study in a different country. Just to kind of piggyback off on Amber, I also grew up low income, and then even just what John Dark was talking about, just saying how students in general don't study abroad, 6%. It just, I mean, only 6% only study abroad. Sorry, but it was just something. I had to get over the anxiety bit of it. But once I finally made the decision, like, okay, I'm just gonna go study abroad and you know, try to have a different experience than what I'm used to. Because when I was growing up in Los Angeles, I kind of grew up in a rough area, and the only thing you worry about really is just kind of like athletics, trying to, you know, get a college, you know, D1 scholarship. So, you know, trying to, you know, take your mind from, okay, the world is much bigger than just football. I was trying to stretch myself mentally. And so, yeah, that's what kind of encouraged me. I had somebody kind of push me. It was like, you know, try the experience, see how it goes. And actually was like one of the best things I ever experienced. And I think one more thing is just, I wanted to kind of break family fears. So people in my family like never ever studied like not study abroad when that, and they did never traveled like outside of the country, like overseas. So I'm literally the first person. And yeah, it just, they were very skeptical at first and cautious. They wanted me to be cautious, but yeah, so that's why I chose to study abroad. And the host country that I chose was Scotland, which the person I knew was there. And yeah, just so I can be closer. So yeah, that's my reason.
um, why did I choose? So it was my second year. I was with one of my friends who switched to a new major, and we was talking about studying abroad. At this time, my GPA was horrible, so the opportunity was not there. So I was like, yeah. So it was an idea. As my GPA increased, and as the opportunities opened up, and after listening to a lot of my mentors, a lot of people and just that graduated, keep saying my biggest regret is not studying abroad. My biggest regret is not studying abroad. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. So the most difficult thing that I did was walk into the Study Abroad Center and figure out how to make it so. And that was like at the end of my fourth year. And that's literally why I chose to study abroad. Especially coming from, like everybody else, coming from lower socioeconomic, Long Beach, California, all that aspect. I mean, the only place I went to was to Mexico, and that was my the naiveness of me. It was pretty much like going to a new state when I drove down there. I didn't really see anything as bigger than staying here in SoCal. And then I chose my host country specifically because it was one of the, I chose a lot of places in correlation to my major for sustainability and urban design, whichever schools like best recommended those aspects, and also the least problematic because I didn't have time to deal with being Black and you not liking it. So those are the reasons why I chose my host country specifically.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about your backgrounds and differing reasons. You know, everything is super interesting to hear, like what led you there. So now we want to review some of the benefits, right, that can be gained while abroad. If you all can take like a second to read this really beautiful personal quote on the left-hand side, right? Just to kind of see what previous study abroad participants like thoughts and feelings. You know, it's really inspirational, truly. And then on the right, we kind of look at, you know, some of those reasons that come while being abroad, especially as a minority student, right? Like personal growth, learning a new language or improving a language you may already know, the fluency of it, learning both inside and outside of the classroom, developing new relationships, and then, you know, maybe seeking to reconnect with your heritage, your different roots, or trying to get a sense of a new community and different heritages, career preparation and opportunities, clarifying your own interests and life goals, you know, on top of viewing your major from a different perspective. And then, of course, exploring more, right? Whether that be about your own identity or other identities abroad. So those are just some of the benefits that you will experience when going abroad. And with that, we want to get to know more of our panelists and ask them specifically, what benefits did you experience while studying abroad? You know, feel free to touch on whatever you think is the most important and you want to share.
Shall I go first this time, or
Yeah.
all right, I'll be nice. For me, there was a few benefits. I kind of jotted them down too. The first thing that I would say is personal growth, mentally and spiritually. Um, when you go to a different country, you have like you're exposed to different, ideologies, uh, religions, whatever it may be, just difference of thought, and it really stretches you, because you have to figure out in a sense of, where you grew up, the cultural values and the Western, like for us, the Western values and stuff like that. Uh, do they resonate with you in a way that you're comfortable, even when you go out to a different country, that you're confident in it, because people will challenge you saying, oh, well, America, and, did you guys are this and this, and all the selfish talk about, Americans. And, yeah, there are some selfish aspects of America. However, it's just being abroad, like basically it's just you have to encounter those kind of things, and it really makes you have to sit down and think. And I think that's good, for your development just as a young adult. And I really appreciated it because I got to meet so many people from like all kind of different countries. I mean, like Italy, Germany, China, South Korea, Bangladesh. I mean, I can keep going. Just a lot of people, and all those people brought different type of, experiences, and I got to share my experiences with them. And it's just really cool because when you go and study abroad, sometimes you think like, oh, I'm just visiting somebody who students at that school, but actually you're visiting students who are also studying abroad, from different countries. So that's the really cool thing. It's like a melting pot. Um, I think another thing I would add is for a benefit is that you get to be exposed to additional opportunities. So for instance, for me, when I went and studied abroad, I really liked the different school system. I was like, wow, like this is really cool. Some requirements, well, in the UK, like the requirements are a little bit more fair. They weren't more as rigid as America's, requirements for things. So when I found out that I had the opportunity to do my master's and get it done in 12 months, and like it was really cheap, like half the cost of an American master's program, I was like, ooh, I gotta get the discount. So I kind of just went and did that. And yeah, there was just a lot of things. And I think the last thing I would say, actually two things. One is that it encouraged my peers from back home. So like my friends, my family, everybody being gone. And it really made them kind of like think, oh, maybe I could do that too, seeing me take pictures and stuff. And now I got people like sending me message like pictures of like, oh, I got my passport. I'm like, that's cool. And then so yeah, and then the last thing I would just say is for me, I like business. I really love entrepreneurship. And I think just the benefit from that kind of perspective is when you go to different countries, you get to realize, or get inspired by other different businesses that may not be in America from the country you're from. Or you might even see, opportunity, like a gap in the market or something. And those things are really cool because you can just really capitalize off of those kind of things. So yeah, those are like the benefits I think that I've gained from studying abroad. So yeah.
Beautiful. And just to piggyback, a lot of what Matthew says is true. Benefits that I experienced while studying abroad, honestly, the biggest one was the fact of the matter of just like being embedded in so many different cultures, learning learning so much from other people, and it was like just a big melting pot in order to just understand so many different countries at once. It was beautiful. I can't really explain it, but that's as best I can get to explain it, how beautiful it was. The people that I met, the friends that I came across for the time that I was out there, honestly, I'll say it was one of the best benefits of that I can come, because they also took care of me out there. And just being able to come back to America and be like, yo, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. We can't stay. Like, what are you doing? Look, you go to Vegas left and right, save that up, let's get a plane ticket and dip. Niobe. But those are some of the biggest benefits that I can really that I took from studying abroad, other than just living on my own in a whole new place from a fresh start. I live 2 hours from UCI, so it let me know that I can do it.
Okay, I think that's me, right? Okay, so like Matthew said, I was definitely challenged to grow in a way that I had really never been challenged before. As you know, Korea is a very different culture than the US. And I always say that I had more growth in that 1 year of being abroad than like the rest of my 3 years at UCI combined. I learned a lot more about like collectivist cultures and different forms of respect, and just meeting people who grew up in a completely different like upbringing with different maybe values than we have here sometimes. And that can really challenge your perceptions, but I think it's in a very necessary kind of way. One of the super unique things was I actually traveled to Japan for a final exam. And how often are you going to do that, right? I took this really cool class called Intercultural Communications, and that teacher had lived everywhere, been everywhere. She just had so much knowledge. And so on the first day of class, she said, we're going to Japan for the final. You guys are funding it. If you don't want to go, drop my class. So it was just something super unique to my experience that I got like a 2-for-1 country experience in a way. I also took a Korean class that was 100% in Korean. Most of the teachers didn't even speak English, so you were just out of luck if you wanted to speak English. But it took me from beginning level Korean to intermediate level, where I could have basic conversations. I was still nervous to use it sometimes, but once I got over that little barrier, my language skills just like shot up immediately. I also met people from all over the world, and now I have people when I travel to those other countries, once this pandemic settles down, that I can stay with them. And that's just a really cool feeling to know you have people rooting for you in other parts of the world, you know? And yeah, I just absolutely can't wait to visit them, all those friendships. And I just loved my time there, so. Oh, yes. Okay. I saw Irene's comment. Yeah, in terms of the more, I guess, professional side, I did an internship while I was abroad in South Korea. I worked at a global gaming company that's based out there. I did marketing and research, as well as service quality control and beta testing applications. So that was a huge opportunity too, just working in a real actual company with company workers, like 20 floors. It was crazy. Um, and I got to work at the Study Abroad Center when I came back. I just loved working there, super supportive environment. And like, that's why we're here today. Like, thanks, Irene, and everyone at the SAC. I got to really continue on that trend of being outgoing and pushing myself out of my comfort zone, having to do endless presentations. And yeah, I just love that. I'm still looking for work right now, but that has been a huge highlight on my resume that often takes the conversation elsewhere when I'm looking for jobs into a direction that I like to go, because I love talking about my time abroad. So yeah, those are my benefits.
Wonder
Thank
if
you.
I can add one more in there just in case that I totally forgot, but it was the best thing ever. I was able to play football overseas. So that was like really amazing to get back into that feeling of it. And definitely a good experience. So I always recommend people also try cheerleading, but it didn't work out.
Great, thank you so much. Y'all bring up another point that, you know, when you're abroad, you have the opportunities to do extracurriculars on top of being in a foreign country and taking classes, right? Like joining clubs, sports teams, all of that. So thank you so much for sharing some of those benefits. We know that when there are ups, there are also some downs, right? Inevitably. So now we want to ask you all to open up with us a little bit and maybe share some of the challenges that you encountered while studying abroad.
I'll go again. Knock it out. Uh, so yeah, some challenges I encountered is, I think the biggest thing was kind of having to relate sometimes with different people. Uh, it's kind of difficult because not only am I just American, like I'm also an American that don't have that many like experiences at the moment, at the time. So the people I was meeting, you know, they had so many experiences, like their whole childhood, they traveled, like, you know, their family was kind of well off. And so just trying to integrate and, you know, not kind of seem, how can I say, not to confirm stereotypes, I guess, you know, being from Los Angeles and stuff. And, you know, I had people ask me weird stuff, kind of like, oh, are you a blood or a Crip? And I'd be like, what? And I was like, come on, like, I'm here to get educated, my brother. Like, you feel me? So yeah, it's just those kind of things, trying to, you know, relate with some people and then trying to keep that openness, you know, regardless of some like the frustration you might have sometimes. I think a second thing is kind of like the new school systems. So in the UK, it's very independent study, because versus the US, we have, you know, constant, you know, quizzes, exams, all kind of stuff, just all the time. Whereas in the UK, they're really like, they'll tell you in the beginning, like, look, this is your essay. This is everything. Like in the beginning of this, like the semester, this is your essay. This is like all your assignments. It is due sometime towards the end of the semester, and nobody gonna remind you of nothing. So you ain't gonna have no Canva notification or Canvas, whatever it is, nothing. Like it just, you have to be a mature adult, get your work done, and really like push it. And another thing too is sometimes for British English is different to American English. So I struggled a little bit with that sometimes because typing, I had somebody, I had one of my professors tell me, "Are you a foreigner? Because your English is not that strong." And I had good grades, like I can't remember. So I was like, what? So that, and then I would say the last two things is weather. We're from California. We used to sun, that good temp. So when I went to my study abroad, I was snowing and blizzards. It was actually like one of the worst snowstorms Scotland had like in years. And I was there for that. And then the last thing I would say is accents, because even, if you go to a different country where it's not speaking English, you're going to obviously have to deal with that barrier of, not speaking that language. But even if you go to other countries, sometimes that do speak English, you struggle with the accents, especially Scottish accents that are very, very thick. So yeah, those are like the biggest challenges that I can highlight from my experience.
I can go ahead. Challenges I encountered, kind of like Matthew was saying. I have which I was fortunate of. I had a white male friend who was Republican, who was really cool. He went from UCLA, but a lot of people was asking him about politics questions and stuff, and then a lot of people was asking me about gang related questions, or just Black stereotypes, and we peeped that, and I was like, when somebody gonna ask me about politics, I want to know, even though it's just a stereotype, just American general. It was a problem. Another challenge that I faced going into my 5th year, you don't get that much financial aid. So it's more student loans, but again, I found ways to make it, to pay for it and make it happen, which I enjoy. There was at times where I did not budget my money well. So finances was really scarce and hard, and good friends like Niobe, who helped send me money overseas, thanks, really helped me out, as well as friends that I made there too. So finances was low-key struggle, but I tell you, I had the best time of my life. And those are pretty much some of the two biggest challenges that I had studying abroad.
Yeah, so for me in Korea, the language barrier definitely could be challenging at times. I didn't realize how important just small things like asking, hey, where can I print this? Or can you help me with this or with that? Just how important knowing those phrases are. So I really got on it so that I could ask people for help. And I also found that the presence of colorism in Korea is very large. The beauty standards are very different from here. There were these two terms that always have kind of stuck with me. It's 흑형 and 흑누나, which literally translates to Black older brother and Black older sister. And it sounds kind of endearing, but it's really not. If you look at like pictures online of what kind of stereotypes these people are, it's a bunch of people in gangs, like looking like they're gonna beat you up or whatever. And that's not the picture, it kind of came off insulting sometimes, even if they weren't trying to be insulting. But to combat, I guess, some of those negative feelings, you just have to know your self-worth and where you come from, and just surround yourself with good people and be open to answering those questions for the locals who may not know your point of view, because they're not going to learn if you're not willing to share, And yeah, as you know, Korea is very ethnically homogeneous. So I definitely stood out among the crowds. People would stare. There was a lot of that. I still remember one time I was walking on the street, this one specific person, you know, sometimes when someone's passing, you'll kind of like look over your shoulder, like keep looking, whatever. This guy turned his whole body and followed me. And, and I looked back and he was still staring at me as I was walking away. I was like, okay. So that is pretty common, but it's important to be aware of that, but not to be scared of that. It's just because you look different and people tend to give bigger reactions towards things they're not used to. It was a bit strange. There were, unless Korean people were actively involved in or enjoyed American hip hop or American culture or Black culture, they assumed that all Black people were from Africa. And they'd sometimes say things like, how'd you get here? Do they have planes there? You know, it was a lot that I think just comes from ignorance and not having different people in those. So those are those educational moments where you're like, oh, well, actually. And I did experience one more extreme form of racism that I don't think is very common, but I think it's important to talk about because it does happen sometimes. I was with a group of 11 people. We went down to visit one of the southernmost cities in Korea, and there were 11 of us, and only 2 of us were darker, me being biracial and my friend being full Black. And this Korean man just came out of nowhere and pushed through our group and hit me in the stomach. And I was kind of like shook. I was like, did I just really get hit right now? Because, you know, sometimes people will push through, like older people in Korea, they just kind of like get out of my way. So I was kind of trying to attribute it to that, but it was a really hard hit to the stomach. And my friends and I kept walking, and later on the guy came back, and my other Black friend, he tried to push her down. And so that's when I knew it wasn't an accident. And he saw that I saw, and I just had this look on my face, like I was mad. And he walked straight up to me, looked into my eyes, smiled, and then walked away. Like, yeah, you know what I just did, kind of thing. Again, that was really extreme. I don't think that happens to most people, but you just do have to be prepared to be in those kind of situations sometimes. And I would hope that it would never happen to anyone else. But just as an American in general, one time too, I was refused service at a convenience store, which was weird, but things happen. And just as being intersectional, like your intersectional identity can affect a lot of different things, being Black American, being Black American and a woman, it changes a lot, right? But again, like overall, I did love my time there. I'm definitely gonna go back and visit my friends out there. But those are just things to be aware of, and not to let them scare you, but just so you go in understanding, I guess, what can happen.
Thank you, Amber, and everyone else for being, you know, honest and real with us. We really appreciate it. And, you know, I'm assuming that because y'all spoke so fondly of study abroad, that, you know, despite those challenges, those, you know, sometimes traumatizing things, that you all would still do it again, right? Like I can tell that you all loved your experience, and the fact that you want to go back, right? The fact that you extended your stay in these places, it really goes to show like how the positives do outweigh the negatives sometimes, right? So thank you for that. And I did want to just say that we are already reaching the 5 o'clock cutoff time. So if anyone needs to log off, please do so. With that being said, we're just going to review some other considerations, challenges that might come up, and then also go back into the logistic information into studying abroad, especially since we are recording this. It'll still be a great resource for everyone to finish watching it when they have more time, and for other students who weren't able to attend. You know, like I said, we will go through the rest of it, so we have the full video for students to access. But as of right now, like, thank you so much to everyone who was here to hear everything that our panelists had to say. And if the panelists and attendees still want to stick around, we're more than able to make that happen. So thank you. With that being said, we'll go ahead and pass it over to Niobe.
Thank you. So just, you know, piggybacking off of what everybody said. So just, you know, when you do study abroad, most likely you're going to be identified as an American first. And so, you know, with that, it's like the different values that you have here in America, they might be, you know, different cultural norms in other places, whether that's like freedom of speech, independence, equality, directness, individuality, and everything else and whatnot that goes along with that. And so just make sure you are prepared for those type of situations as well. Next slide. There's a video to play.
My last thing is
Were you all able to hear that? Okay, perfect.
Yep.
that being a black American in England, I think, or maybe just in Europe, but specifically here, because a lot of people ask me more here than anywhere else, is like, are you really American? Like, what do you think American looks like? Like, they have this concept that Americans are like white. That's problematic. Like, they ask me, like, I'm like, oh, American. They're like, oh, but what really are you? It's like, someone in America said that, that would be so racist. Next question is like, are your parents American? It's like, yes. Oh, are their parents American? Yes. They were all freaking born here. Unless you go back 200 years ago, then they weren't. They're like, oh, well, you look Caribbean, or you look like you're from Somalia, or like South Africa. And I'm like, yes, well, I'm pretty sure somewhere down the line, my history does go back there, but just because my skin color is that way now does not mean I'm not American. I was born in America. I'm full-fledged American. Like, oh, like how'd you get to America? Like, why are you over there? It's like, what do you think America's comprised of? Like, it does not make any sense.
So like with that, I just like that video, it's a lot. But I just want to ask, you know, the panelists, like, did, you know, any of y'all really experience that from where you guys were studying abroad from?
I'll speak first. I'm not gonna lie, I think I was privileged being in Australia and Melbourne. It was I didn't really get it as much. There was times where I just thought about, is it because I'm American? Is it because I'm black, or is it just because they don't like me? I think that was about the first time I realized that I always knew that I was American, but like, you know, claiming it and realizing, because, you know, America got its problems right now. But me personally, I didn't really go through much of identify crosses that didn't state that I was American, because they pretty much saw me as a Black American from the.
Yeah, basically, I didn't have no issues with anybody doubting my citizenship. But yeah, I I think that's really strange and really disrespectful. Especially too, sometimes people, they could just be really oblivious. But yeah, I didn't have that experience. Everybody was really respectful, and I think maybe it could just because of Europe, maybe because I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I know because I am still on the lighter side, people would mistake me sometimes for being Latina. Um, and so it's not that they didn't believe me, but they were like, oh, you are? That's not what I thought like a Black person looked like, you know? So, I mean, there was some of that, but yeah, overall, people didn't really, they weren't in like disbelief when I told them where I was from. I usually just said I was from California because they tend to be like, oh, you're a cool California girl, instead of being like, oh, you're from America, you know? Yeah, so that was something that was interesting too. Yeah, just the different, like, that is just a state, but they still view it differently as the overall country.
Part of your- Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, to add into that, I don't know what it is, but California is like, when you say you're from California, they disregard all of America. I don't know why, but just say you're from Cali to LA area, and that's pretty much the ticket there, as I see it.
Sixth biggest economy, definitely, in the world.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, I think whenever you say anything about California, people just they lose their mind. And they're like, "Oh, yay, we like you," and it's like, "Okay, thanks. I
You
live
know,
here, but all right." Yeah.
which I wanted to highlight, if I can speak on, because it felt kind of weird. I felt like a celebrity, a Black celebrity, kind of, especially with as a Black male around. I felt fetishized also, which it just made it easier to go about the day, even though, acknowledging it. But as being a Black American in general, I don't know if you felt the same way, Amber, Matthew, but it
Oh, go on, go ahead. Go ahead.
now, I was gonna say that was definitely an experience that I can point out of our own nationality and race.
Yeah, because definitely, I know for me, when I started my international business program here for my master's, they took us on a retreat like the first week, and it was something like a lake district, like in the north of England, and it was really cool because like my whole class had to come, and like we had like 97 people in my class, and I remember when we got to the like the cabins and all that stuff, literally I had people running to me talking about like I didn't meet them yet, nothing, but like it was like just spreading around like, oh, you the one from Los Angeles? Like you from Los Angeles? Oh my gosh. And it was like, oh, you didn't ask my name, nothing, how I'm doing today. Just are you from Los Angeles? So I think it's definitely some type of romanticization of California, but I guess you can use it to your benefit to some extent, but at the end of the day, as long as you're not letting it get to your head, yeah, you should just be enjoying your time.
Yeah, no, like Bryant brought up, I definitely think that fetishization, that word. I definitely think that it was present, and it it was weird. It was kind of weird to deal with sometimes, because there's a term for like white or Eurocentric people going to Korea. It's riding the white horse. And there's a similar thing for like Black women or Black men. It's seen as more of like an experience than like this is a person, just dating them like you would anyone else, like you're investing in a relationship or whatever. So it was more as like seen as an experience than what it is. It's a relationship. So I did deal with some of that, which was a little strange. um yeah, I forgot the other thing I was going to say, but yeah, there was definitely that going on. And I did have one friend, when I told him about California, we were just hanging out one day and I said, oh, you should come visit California. And he was like, oh, I want to, but I don't want to get shot, I don't want to die. And those are one of the things too, it's hard to explain. I think as people who grow up here, you understand that it's not as common as they think it is, but at the same time, you can't tell them it's not gonna happen, because it happens sometimes. But that's just another thing that it's really hard to explain. You do the best that you can, and just kind of being a mini representative for your country abroad. It's a lot to handle sometimes, but it's also nice knowing that you are actively contributing to other people learning about another culture, or just broadening those perspectives where they don't understand certain things. It's like, oh, maybe you shouldn't say that because it can be taken this way, or things like that.
Can I actually add one more thing from what Amber said? It kind of sparked something. When she was saying like being like a mini representative or like ambassador or whatnot. I remember from one of my classmates, he's a really sweet person. But during that time when we had like a lot of tensions, because of George Floyd and all that stuff that was going on, that's when social media was really pumping up, trying, Black awareness and, and all the, police brutality and all these things that are going on. And I remember because I was posting, like I was reposting, like, Black awareness stuff on my social media. And I had one of my classmates, he's Italian, and he basically just kind of sent me a message, and it was not kind of trying to, he wasn't trying to challenge me, but at the same time, it was like he was trying to correct me, like, oh, I have these other sources that say, Black people don't like go through this or they don't go through that. and this and that and all these kind of things. And I had to like restrain myself for a second because I was like, oh boy, like, you don't have the right to speak about anything like that. But I didn't even go there. And I had to remember as a, oh my goodness, I'm just gonna say ambassador, as a mini ambassador of your country, especially your culture, you can either fall into the stereotype of just like blowing up on somebody, or you can try to use that opportunity to educate them. And I remember I had to actually just have a cool, calm, collected dialogue and, show him some other real stats from real, credible sources and not, conspiracy stuff off of, Instagram. And I actually had to show them that, and like the real poverty that Blacks have to deal with, and not even just Blacks, Latins, the Latino people, just minority people in general in America. And I just show them like everything, even with like institutional racism and how it's been linked all the way back from the past to now. So yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of that from Amber, just saying like having to be an ambassador for your culture, and like having to also be level-headed and cool with people and trying to be patient and explain to them so they can actually learn, so they don't have these like stereotypes in their mind when they at home and spreading that false narrative. So yeah.
Thank you so much for saying all that. And that also leads into the next slide, just talking about like discrimination abroad. These are just like some quotes from people who have studied abroad. And so, just how you said, commenting about, one's appearance, your appearance, and then also like how, Bryant, you said your fetishization. Got that right. There you go. Okay. Just, being a Black male, also an American over in Australia. And then also the language discrimination, how Matthew, you had said, like one of your professors just saying like, oh, I know you're a foreigner because like your English isn't that great. And you're like, wait, what? And then also just experiencing some like microaggressions, maybe from like peers or just like from the people who actually live in the country that you're visiting. Irene, did you want me to do this one?
Yeah, I think maybe just like a quick overview, I think, especially for people who watch the recordings and later maybe want to recap as well.
Cool. Okay, so like depending on what country you go to and everything, there might be also different expectations with that. So and so if you're going to like a predominantly Black country, it might be successes with connecting to like your heritage, your roots, being part of like the majority, gaining a deeper understanding of self, and then also accessibility to hair care, which is always a plus. But then also maybe some challenges, just like not feeling like a part or being that you're accepted by the host culture. And then like unmet expectations. So maybe not feeling a connection that you thought you would be able to. And then also like repressing other identities. So one is like being Black and queer abroad. So in Africa, there are like 4 countries where you could necessarily be executed for being part of the LGBTQ community. And so you can also see which countries those are there. And it also could be seen as being illegal too. So just kind of being aware of that, depending on where you choose to decide to study abroad. And then depending if you're going to go to predominantly white, Asian, or Latinx country, some success are racial freedom and everything and whatnot. So, seeing students who, necessarily like look like you and maybe identify as you. And then also cross-cultural learning. So you get to be exposed to all these different cultural cultures and everything, and broaden your knowledge and experience. And then empowerment. And so, being able to like move in between these different cultural places that you may not have been able to do so before. And then some challenges would be anti-Blackness, so we face that here in America. So necessarily wouldn't really be anything different, but just also just being aware of that. And then also stereotypes. So, people have images and depictions of what Black people are in America, just Black people in general. And so just being aware of that, and then also just, educating them, that's not necessarily what it is. This is, what we are, what we do. Like we're doctors, we're lawyers, we're activists, we're so much more than what stereotypes have perceived us to be. And then like limited hair care, of course, and then racial isolation. So you might only be like the only Black African American person in your program, which could be hard, depending on where you are. So that feeling of like belonging will also be there.
Thank you, Niobe, for going over the other considerations. Despite those considerations and challenges, we do think that the ultimate experience is worth it, right? So for those who are still on here, feel free to stay tuned on. We're gonna go over the logistics in making study abroad happen. All right, so with that, we'll move forward and then, have even another little bit of time if the panelists are willing and able for maybe any extra questions that you have that have gone unanswered so far. So feel free to drop those in the chat in the meantime as well. But when you go abroad, you have so many options, right? We have locations almost everywhere except Antarctica. So, if you had your heart set on Antarctica, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but I'm sure we can still find something else that works for you, right? You can go abroad for a different amount of time, right? Whether that's a summer, a quarter, a semester, or a year. It really is about what works best for you and your schedule. And then lots of different types of programs. Like there are some that are UC only, like you'll only be taking classes with UC students, like the one I did in Italy. But there are other ones where you'll be a full student at a university that, regular students from that country attend, or even other international students, like all of our panelists, right? They were at full universities that people regularly attend, not just UC students. And then you have lots of living options as well, right? You can maybe stay in a dorm, apartment, or a homestay, right, with a local family. And homestay would be, an even more immersive experience because you get to see what day-to-day life is, eat some bomb home cooked meals. There's a lot of pros to all of these options, right? And then really important to know is you can go anytime after your freshman year or as late as your final quarter, right? So it really is about finding the time that works best for you and your schedule, but you have a whole time frame to choose from. And then, of course, when you're studying abroad, yes, you are traveling and getting to know your host country, but you're still taking classes. It's called studying abroad for a reason. But we definitely want y'all to recognize that all majors can go abroad. It's not limited to certain types of majors. Everyone can go. And then when you're abroad, you can take classes that will either fulfill your major, minor, or GE requirements, right? You can do it all. And you can even take courses that just interest you, right? Courses abroad, like Amber touched on, having to take a final in Japan, there are different experiences in being here at UCI. So you can see some images down here, like obviously those aren't traditional classroom settings we usually see. So it really is a unique experience going abroad and making credit still towards your degree. Another thing to know is that you do not have to know a certain language to go abroad, right? When you go abroad, you can study in English and maybe take a foreign language class on the side, or even if you're already native in a language, you can take core classes in that language, which is still a new experience, right? Because it's more academic lingo, not so casual. But know that you don't need any previous language experience. There are different programs with different requirements. So you don't have to worry about having taken a language before or not. And, just the fact that English is so widespread, most classes are available in English everywhere, right? I think all of our panelists took classes in English except for Amber, who took Korean language on the side, right? And then of course you have the chance to improve or learn a new language. And then we do really want to emphasize the fact that if you can afford or manage to study at UCI, then you can afford or manage to go abroad, because most of the programs cost the same, sometimes even less than attending UCI, right? And financial aid goes with you, which is super important to know, right? When else are you going to get paid to go to another country and study, right? So whether you receive grants, scholarships, or loans, it'll all carry over with you, and it usually is adjusted and maybe even increased, right? To really help cover any additional costs that come up. And something important to keep in mind as well is that more financial aid and scholarships are available during the academic school year. So if you are somebody who's heavily dependent on financial aid, like I know I am, keep in mind that it's better to go during the year so you get the most out of that package. And just as a sample comparison on the left, right? At UCI for a year, it's almost like 34K, right? 33 weeks of class. But if you go to Korea for a whole year, it's only like 29K and you get an extra 10 weeks of instruction. So it really just goes to show that there are some options that may be more affordable. And if you ever have any questions about how to apply for scholarships or where all the costs going to, this is why we're here for you all. Just book an appointment with us and we'd be happy to go over all of that with you as well. And then very briefly, I did want to ask our panelists like how they were able to finance their study abroad program.
I can start first. I was thinking in my head, that was one of the biggest challenges was the finance, because I had my own off-campus apartment. So do be mindful of your expenses that you currently have before you even leave out, because I was paying car insurance, I was paying half my rent back home, I was paying other things. So my financial aid and student loans and friends aid income helped me finance my abroad. Because like mentioned, in your fifth year, you do get less financial aid if you do the full 5 years at the university. So do take in consideration of where your finances are going, and do look into your financial aid package too. But I still made it happen and I enjoyed it, like I said, y'all.
Yeah, playing off of that, definitely budget. You have to budget. I did end up extending, like I said, so I found out I used most of my financial aid for the first semester and didn't have it for the second. So you do want to be aware of maybe how long you'll be there, and just always have a little bit of a cushion just to protect yourself in case of any emergency. For me, I paid for it with a mix of financial aid covered a lot of it. And the rest, my family helped pay for. I did get one scholarship through the Friends of Study Abroad for $1,000, and then just savings. So yeah, you definitely have to plan and budget, but you can definitely make it happen. Just if you give yourself more time to look into it and plan, then it's going to be a lot easier.
For myself, I guess I'm one of like the lucky one. I don't know, but when I came to you, like when I transferred as a community college student, I I was like qualified for like the Bloom Gold program. And so like that basically like covered my whole 6 months. Um, so yeah, like I didn't really have to pay for nothing. I didn't have to take out no loans. Um, I just was really, really good with my budgeting. Um, yeah, and I just made sure like when I got to like my city that I was supposed to be at, that I didn't kind of splurge trying to get like a crazy place. Like I kind of got like one of the cheapest places I can get. Um, my eating, I made sure like each week I did not go over like 40 pounds a week, because that's the amazing thing. You can get a whole week's worth of food for really cheap. And so I was cooking a lot of my own food. Sometimes I'll splurge, but okay, like I gotta go out, everybody going out, gotta buy me a meal, but I'll try to stick to like, the value meal. But so I made it work. And then I kind of got a little lucky too, because like my mom, she kind of came into some money right before I left, and she like dropped me a little bit of some money, and yeah, that was cool. So it was really, yeah, I made it work. But I ended up having to pay like when I did my master's. Now that I had to take out loans and all kind of stuff. There was no more Bloom Gold programs. So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. If I can add one more thing, what you brought up about the cost of food and stuff, it is so dependent, your budgeting too, on which country you go to. Because for Korea, buying groceries was just as expensive as eating out. So I think my whole year in Korea, I don't think I made myself a meal once, which is weird because back here, I make every meal. I go out I used to go out maybe like once or twice a week, maybe. That's pushing it. But like I made most of my meals, and there I didn't have to make any because it was cheaper to eat out. So that's also interesting, just be mindful of where you're going for your budgeting, and that can help you plan and like allocate your resources better too.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing those tips and tricks. And of course, we're here to go over all of the finances with you as well. So now if you're wondering, okay, y'all sold me, how do I get started? Just go to our website, www.studyabroad.uci.edu, or just Google UCI Study Abroad and our website will come up. And then all you need to do is click students, select the how to study abroad timeline, which will be really like straightforward. So you can start browsing those program options. But if the website is a little confusing, that's okay. We're still here to help you walk you through it. So with that being said, if you are wanting to go abroad, the deadlines and the process to apply vary, but just know that most programs are not competitive. It's not like applying to college all over again. Fortunately, all you need to do is like meet your program's requirements and submit your application by the deadline, and then you'll most likely be accepted into the program of your choice. If for some reason you're not, we're still gonna work with you to look for a different backup, but usually you will be given your first choice, right? As long as you meet those requirements, which are pretty minimal, and submit on time. But ultimately, please do plan to visit us and apply the year before you plan to study abroad, so we can really make sure that we have the necessary time to pick the program that's the perfect fit for you. And as Bonnie has mentioned in the chat, unfortunately, programs to go abroad this summer were canceled, like the ones that have been leading up to now, but we're still going to be taking applications to go in this fall, upcoming 2021. So if you are interested in going in fall, then that means you're going to be applying now during winter 2021. But if you're interested in going, winter quarter or spring quarter of the next academic school year in 2022, then you'll be applying this upcoming spring 2021, right? So the deadlines and the process varies, but at least plan to start looking into everything 1 year before you want to go, right? And then we also do have virtual programs available for this summer, and that means the time to apply is now. So if you are interested in virtual programs, know that that's an option. You can still get the international experience even from your home. So definitely let us know, in advising, and we can look at those options together. And, we can move forward to the next slide, which basically is that if you have any remaining questions or doubts about studying abroad, whether it's the logistics or more personal experiences, book an advising appointment with us, right? We're available. We're more than happy to help. And we have availability open Monday through Friday, every day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You get to pick your own 30-minute time slot with a peer advisor to really break everything down together. And if you need specific help, that's why we're here. We can also redirect you to the proper staff member if needed as well. And here's a picture of our team from last year, and featuring Amber, one of our lovely panelists. And just know that we really are here to support you. Any accommodations you may need, like that's why we're here to help figure it out together. So with that being said, thank you so much to our panelists. Once again, in case anyone has any last minute lingering questions that we didn't touch, feel free to ask now, whether you turn on your mic or drop it in the chat. It doesn't look like we have any lingering, because y'all already did such a great job in touching everything that is most important, I feel like. So with that being said, once again, thank you so much for coming to talk to us, sharing your experiences. It was so insightful to hear and really inspiring. And just know that studying abroad is available to all of you watching this recording, and those who attended. These amazing panelists did it, overcame it, loved it, and so can you. And just thank you to our panelists for being so inspiring.
I just want to say,
Sorry.
so go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say thank you to Irene and everyone else who helped host this too, just for creating like a safe space to talk about this stuff. because until this, I've never really been asked that much to share my experiences, right? Other than outside of the Study Abroad Center. So I think it's really important that people hear these conversations, just so they can plan and just be more aware that other cultures are different. So thank you.
Thank you for having me as well. I really appreciate being able to share my experiences.
I just want to say thank you to the panelists. Thank y'all for coming, because I know like different time zones maybe for, I know Matthew right now. Yeah, different time zone. So I really truly appreciate it. And then Irene, thank you for also like reaching out to us to, you know, actually facilitate for this for students. So I know it's been beneficial. So thank you so much to everybody who attended this program.
I want to say a little bit, I want to say thank you too. Then we got to Niobe because it was like final. But no, thank you so much. As an admissions counselors, I work at UCI now too. It's a very beautiful thing to get that representation to really show as many students that we can go, we can make these things happen. We don't have to have barriers to keep us from achieving goals that we want to attain to. Like traveling is a beautiful thing. Traveling the world, touching other grounds is a whole nother level of just a Black experience that we should all be able to just visit and ignite. So I really love this.
Can I ask a question? Pardon me. Hey everyone, I'm Mark. I'm new to the Study Abroad Center. I do global risk management, and I'm living in St. Louis, Missouri right now. So I haven't been on the UCI campus. I have learned a lot about the UCI experience through you all and what you've told me and each other about your study abroad experiences. So I really appreciate it. And particularly the Black experience abroad and the challenges of encountering racism and anti-Blackness in your respective countries is really important. So my question is, do you meet up with each other outside of venues like this? Like, do you all talk to each other socially about your study abroad experience, or has study abroad been a connective tissue for you all? Or do you, I'm thinking about Amber's comment about finding ways to, or being appreciative of having this forum to talk about these issues openly, because they are really important. And I'm wondering if you would be interested in continuing that, or think about ways to continue this like offline, or am I making sense? Like,
You definitely are.
No,
You
definitely.
are. In the
We just
beginning,
don't know each other. That's it. Like, well, I know Parker, but yeah.
yeah, I know a couple from a ton of, there's really wasn't that many. So and to even think about it, to talk about the experiences, it's just, the representation wasn't really there. We're so spread out in the months. So like, I mean, even this, I feel like I'm venting, telling, and giving knowledge all at the same time.
yes.
So I'll definitely be, I'm definitely always down to help create a platform, or create, or to have just a form of talk, because it's really good to still talk about the experience that we had, good, bad, and all in between.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And just being a student going abroad in general, you have a different type of connection with other people who have studied abroad, because there's just differences. You learn so much about other cultures, and it's kind of an experience that not everyone has had, so that is a bonding thing. I personally haven't met any of the other students on this panel except for Irene. And so that's why I really like this too, because I'm meeting new people today too. So I definitely think it's something that should be continued, and I enjoyed it.
That's great. I see this as an important part of like your own reentry process that continues on after you, like that semester when you come back, or that year you come back. Or Matthew, you're still there, or like you went back, right? You're still going through this. So so I appreciate that. I think we need to talk in the Study Abroad Center about ways to continue these conversations within the group, as well as part of the outreach. So
Definitely.
I say that as being a new member of the team who has no responsibility for this and authority over this. So I put that out there in full honesty, but I really did appreciate so much everything that you said. And feel like this could be an ongoing conversation, should be, it needs to be an ongoing conversation for you all, for the future students, for students who've gone abroad before you, because it is, yeah, it's an evolving topic. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So yes, feel free to, get off, have some dinner, go to bed. It's Tuesday, but the week always feels long. So just thank you again for joining us, for watching this recording. Know that studying abroad is possible, and these panelists have done it, and you can do it too. So thank you. Have a good rest of your evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
Bye.
Thank you, Irene.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Niobe. You were amazing.
Thank you. No, well, thank you. This is this was better than I expected.
Oh
And
my,
I was like, oh my
thank
God, yay.
you. Thank you.
So,
I'm
yeah.
so happy, the first one, hopefully many more to come. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Bye.
I think the recording is going to be sent to